starting with Catherine Clark. And let me just see if she's from, let's see. She's the Democratic whip of the U.S. House of Representatives. Oh, Massachusetts. Okay. All right. Just making sure. So anyway, she says, praying for the victims, families, and community in Minnesota now left to navigate unimaginable pain. We cannot accept this as normal. It's a policy failure that we have the power to change. Let's act. So that one was pretty tame. Not too bad. She didn't allude to gun violence, gun crime, things of that. So she kind of kept it pretty simple, pretty basic, and respectful. And she's responding to ABC News, which I'll go ahead and play this as well. Looks like it's from the police chief of Minneapolis. Breaking, 2 children were killed and at least 17 others were injured, including 14 kids, when a gunman fired shots through the windows of a church at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis, police said. So we'll go ahead and check this out here.
2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church.
Of course he did. You notice how he referred to him as he?
For the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack. We will stand together to protect our children, our schools, and our houses of worship. This deliberate act of violence is just a sign of cruelty that is beyond comprehension. Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy.
Yep, it's horrible. Very cowardly, to say the very least. Fucking monster. So this is from Senator Dick Durbin. During the first week of school, students should be welcoming the new school year and making new friends. Instead, students at Annunciation Catholic School in Minnesota experienced a horrifying shooting. It's heartbreaking. My prayers are with the Annunciation Catholic School community. Another good one. Another pretty tame, not political. Let's see. So Senator John Hickenlooper, heartbroken to hear about the horrific shooting at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis on the first week of their school year. Our thoughts are with the victims and families who are impacted by this attack. Schools should be places of learning and growth, not places of fear. We must do more to end gun violence and keep our kids safe. So that's where we start to head into a little bit of political posturing now. Let's see. From Congresswoman Maggie Goodland. Let's see, from New Hampshire, and I forgot. I can't remember. I know where he's from, but I forgot. Colorado, that's right. And then Dick Durbin, I should know that too. Illinois. All right. Okay, so here we go. Maggie Goodland, this is beyond horrifying. It's sickening. My heart breaks for the 8-year-old and 10-year-old who were murdered in this senseless attack. My prayers are with the 17 innocent people who were injured during the shooting, and my thanks are with the brave first responders who quickly responded to this tragedy. And gun violence is the #1 killer of American kids. It's time to act to save lives. I mean, I would push back against that, even though, because we're in the middle of this, I'm not going to do full stop and look that up. But I have a feeling that's probably not actually the case. But if it is, prove me wrong and leave a comment if you so choose. All right, and she's responding to breaking, at least 2 people have been killed in the shooting, and we'll just go ahead and play this here. I don't know why they decided to freeze frame right on her boobs.
What are you hearing from law enforcement on this?
But all right.
Well, we're being told that there are multiple injuries, people that have been taken to the hospital, that the suspect is contained, but the number is quite concerning of those, the number injured. I think we're reporting now that at least 2 dead and 12 taken to local hospitals. That number could rise according to my sources. And I have guidance from a key source that this incident happened around 8:30 or so this morning.
Okay, 8:30.
As the school would have been full of students and parents dropping off their kids. Law enforcement describing an horrific scene where bullets are flying, people are being injured. And now we have the ATF, FBI responding, offering their support and their assistance. The President of the United States is now responding as well. as this is now a national major incident involving yet another mass shooting at a very public place.
Well, and I haven't heard the exact weapon that was used. I mean, I guess I could take another look at this magazine. I mean, possibly AR style. I can't. I mean, it looks wide enough to be an AR style. But I haven't seen any word yet as to the exact firearm. It definitely doesn't appear to be a handgun. That was my first thought because so many people were injured and so few were killed. So when I first heard this come out, like around 10:30 this morning, that was my first thought because rifles are a lot more accurate than handguns. And typically with handgun mass shootings, a lot more people tend to get injured than get killed. Whereas it's usually a lot worse when it comes to rifles. But it looks like he used one. Maybe it was just a terrible shot. Thank God. Thank the Lord, man. Let's see. So yeah, we did. That was the last one we did. So let me zoom in here a little bit. Congresswoman Sarah McBride, another unconscionable act of violence has shattered yet another community, this time at a Catholic grade school in Minneapolis. Students deserve more than thoughts and prayers. They deserve to be safe at school. My heart is with the victims, the injured, and their families as they grieve. So another good one. Not bad. You know, it's the majority so far of the ones that I polled. They're not making it into a political issue, at least not yet. And this is from ABC News. Did we already do this one? I'll find out. Let's see. 2 people were killed, yada, yada. So we'll go ahead and see if we
have the first sense of
already
numbers
played this. I don't think we
here,
have.
Diane, as you said, at least 2
Wish
dead,
it was a little bigger.
over a dozen injured.
I try to zoom in, but it doesn't work.
We also know that the shooter, according
Fucking
to
X,
law
man.
enforcement, has been contained. What they're saying at this hour is that there is no threat
I guess I can
to
full
the
screen
community, but they are still urging
Hey, it's a little better.
patients in the area as they are tending to these
Better than
victims.
a little
Diane,
better.
there is a massive federal response going on
I think
here.
we did see
FBI
this, though, didn't we?
responding, ATF responding.
Yeah,
DHS
we did.
is aware
We
of the
did. We did.
situation.
All
But
right.
again,
All right. We saw it. Okay, from Congresswoman Julie Johnson. This morning in Minneapolis, 2 children, just 8 and 10 years old, were murdered during school mass. 17 others, many of them children, were shot. As a mom and a congresswoman, I'm sickened. School and churches should be sanctuaries, not crime scenes. Thoughts and prayers are not enough. Our kids deserve more than condolences. They deserve courage from this Congress to stop weapons of war from tearing through classrooms and sanctuaries. Well, they also deserve to be around a public that isn't consisted of people who have been on hormones and beta blockers and testosterone and all of these chemicals that jack up developing people's brains and turning them into unhinged fucking monsters. Plus, isn't it the transgender community, isn't it almost at a 50% rate where they attempt suicide at least once in their lives? So many, if not the majority of them, are in some degree of mentally unstable, because if you consider or if you attempt suicide at any point in your life, you at least have a certain period in your life where you're going through mental instability, a pretty severe form of it, in fact. So it's not the guns, lady. The gun wouldn't have done anything, most likely, if not for this person being subjected to God knows what. I mean, I don't know. Hormones, whatnot. Can't say 100% definitively if they were or not, because I don't know the individual. All I can do is just assume and form an opinion. But yeah, chances are, my opinion, if this person wasn't radicalized by all kinds of different factors, it could have been a professor, it could have been teachers, it could have been mainstream media, could have been peer pressure, could have been all the above. Probably was all the above. Social media especially. All right, so anyway, from Rep. Zoe Lofgren, the first week of school, let me just see real quick. California. Yeah, California. The first week of school should be a time of hope and joy for our children and teachers, not trauma. My heart breaks for Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis after today's tragic shooting. We must protect our schools and act to address America's gun violence crisis. Another political post. And Rep. Richard Neal, my heart goes out to the Minneapolis community affected by the horrific tragedy that took place at Annunciation Church. Our schools and churches should be safe, and action is long overdue. Enough is enough, which that's a political one for sure. I'm absolutely heartbroken for the students from Tammy Duckworth, parents and loved ones affected by the horrific school shooting in Minneapolis. Not even 1 week into the school year, gun violence just changed their lives forever. We owe it to our kids to pass common sense gun safety reforms. That still wouldn't have changed anything. They still would have done what they did. Anyway, 2 children are dead and 17 others are injured after a shooting at a Catholic mass marking the first week of school at Annunciation Catholic School in South Minneapolis Wednesday morning. Quote, don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now, end quote, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said in a news conference after the shooting. Quote, these kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church, end quote. Multiple federal sources told CBS News that the shooter died of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. And if you want to read details into that, I'll have that linked in the description on CBS. You want to check that out. And let's move back to the next one here. Okay. And from Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock, gun violence. See, he just jumps right into it now, doesn't he? Gun violence spares no one, not even children who are praying in their sanctuary, their sacred place of worship. It is beyond comprehension that we have chosen to live this way. For the sake of all of God's children, Congress must act on gun safety. Well, I think quite the opposite is happening across the country. Look, the Democrats, they've been hell-bent on trying to strip all Americans of our guns since at least 1999. That's kind of when they went into overdrive with regard to the Columbine high school shooting. And every time something like this happens, they just posture beyond belief when it comes to gun control. But over the last 15 years, it's been quite the opposite. Where are we at now? 26 states that are some form of constitutional carry now. Back in like 2013, there was only one state, and I believe it was New Hampshire. New Hampshire was the only state where you were allowed to carry a firearm around without requiring the government's permission to do so. Now we're at 26 states. My state, Florida, we just added that July 1st of last year, where you can conceal carry anywhere you want. You don't have to have the government's permission as long as you're concealed carrying. I mean, I think it should be open carry as well. But in Florida, you can open carry if you're going camping, fishing, or hunting, going to, directly to, or returning directly from. But other than that, it has to be concealed carry. I wouldn't recommend open carrying anyway. I mean, all that does is just give somebody who's standing behind you the opportunity to snatch your firearm away. It's better that you just don't even reveal it to anybody. People are better off not knowing, ignorance is bliss kind of thing. So, yeah, anyway, so we're going to get into some of the Republican responses from the Republican that everybody just loves and adores, Rep. Dan Crenshaw. Anyway, incredible bravery and heroism. A 5th grader from Annunciation Catholic School said his friend jumped on top of him during the shooting and took a bullet to the back to protect him. He's in the hospital now. They think he's going to be okay. Tara, and I are praying for him, for the 2 children who were killed, and for all who were injured, and for the entire Minneapolis community. These acts of violence against children are incomprehensible. The perpetrator will burn in hell for eternity, but that's no consolation to the families who have lost their babies. My heart breaks for them. So, say what you will about Dan Crenshaw. It was a good one, You could tell it was heartfelt, which anybody who's a parent, if you respond to this online, most likely you're gonna put a heartfelt response on it, just because you put yourself in these parents' shoes who lost their kids. It's one of the most horrifying things you can imagine. It's the most horrifying thing to get a call like that your child is no longer with us. I mean, I can't even imagine. So I believe we did see this. I don't think that we saw a minute 41 version of this, so I'm gonna give this a go, and I'm gonna full screen it this time because that actually looked not too bad.
After.
Here we go.
It was very scary. It was like my friend got shot in the back. He's in the hospital right now. It was super scary because we've never practiced it in the church. We've only practiced it in the main school. So we really didn't know what to do. We just got into the pews and he shot through the stained glass windows. Yeah.
I'll say they're out in the open, man. That's even worse.
My friend ran, someone helped him run out. He saw him. He was wearing all black and he had a ski mask on.
So it just shot through the windows and never came inside?
I don't think so. I mean, I was down, so I didn't really look up. I mean, he shot through the stained glass windows, so they're probably ruined. And
but do you have friends that got hit by bullets?
Yeah, my best friend did. I think he's gonna be okay. And then my friend, he was laying on top of me, making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him.
And you have a nick on your neck?
Yeah, that was, I don't even know what it's from. Kind of looks like debris or something.
But that came from during this.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? You seem pretty put together here, but it's got to be tough.
Yeah, I'm just like confused kind of because I never thought it would happen and it just happened. So like, just kind of crazy.
Look, and with regard to the gun drills in schools, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's a good idea. I understand the reasoning behind it. I understand. I don't know if it's intentional, but I think what it's doing, it's making a lot of kids just straight out terrified of guns, and they'll probably never even want to think about ever owning one. And I don't think that's the right way to take it. I mean, like, what parents really should be doing is taking their kids to the range. Yeah, maybe, when would be a good age for that? Maybe 12, 11, maybe 12, somewhere around then. But I would absolutely be okay with somebody taking their 7-year-old, maybe even their 6-year-old. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you got a 22. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as young as you can, knowing that they'll be okay handling it. I mean, you know your kids better than anybody else. But yeah, I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. My daughter, I think she was probably either 13 or 14. She might have been 14 the first time we went to the range. Very first firearm she shot was an AR-15. That was not my first ever. My first ever it was like a handgun. But yeah. But anyway, I mean, what do? I guess try to make the schools more secure, which is something that they've been working on for a while. There's only so secure that you can make a school. I think if teachers carried guns, I think that would certainly help. Of course, it wouldn't have helped this situation when some piece of shit is standing outside the school shooting through the windows. I guess that's probably where the drills would come in handy, even though they, like the kid said, they weren't in a particular area where they had practice for that in the past. So now these poor kids are going to have to go through that from this point forward. They're probably, at least in Minnesota, they're probably going to change that to where now they have to do a drill in the cafeteria. Now they have to do a drill in the hallways. Now they have to do a drill in the front office. Now they have to, like, all over the fucking place. Now they've got to do drills in multiple places all over the school in the event that this offhand, God knows, might end up happening. But I don't know, man. I guess being prepared is better than not being prepared, of course. I'm kind of torn when it comes to that. Just, you know, it for like 99% of students, 99.9% of students, they don't end up in a situation like that, thank God. And they end up walking away probably generally more scared of guns than they would have been otherwise, which, of course, the Democrats would love nothing more than to see that through. All right, anyway, I don't want to keep going off on a soapbox moment. So this is from Congressman Nick Langworthy. My heart aches for the victims, their families, and the entire Annunciation Catholic School community in Minnesota. These horrific murders and acts of hate-filled violence are nothing short of pure evil, and we must confront them as such. We pray for the precious lives lost, for the wounded to make a full and healthy recovery, and for the strength and healing for a community left shattered by this unimaginable loss. Even in the face of this darkness, I am deeply grateful for the first responders whose swift and courageous actions saved lives. And I would agree. They said that this shooter took themselves out probably once the cops started pulling up. That I'm assuming that's probably when that happened. So yeah, for them to respond as quickly as possible. Of course, there was somebody earlier that said that they didn't respond fast enough. I'm not so sure about that. Yeah, there was a shooting that happened the night before. Not so sure if all the cops were still called over to that scene. If it happened hours before, probably not. But I'd be curious to know. Not sure if they'll divulge that information, how quickly officers responded once the call went out. All right, so this one is from Congressman Gabe Evans. My family and I are praying for the Minneapolis community as they face this devastating tragedy. As a father, I can't begin to imagine the heartbreak these families are enduring. We stand with the students, families, and first responders in this difficult time. And I want to say that's it. Yeah, so that's it as far as the responses to the shooting goes.